All right, let's dive in. Today we're talking all about happiness, or at least how to get a little bit closer to it. We're going deep with Robert Holden's Happiness Now.
Hmm.
I've been thinking a lot lately about how there's this pressure to be happy, like it's this finish line we're all supposed to cross, but nobody really tells us how to get there.
Yeah, I think that resonates with a lot of people. It's like we're given this vague idea of happiness, but no real roadmap. And Holden actually talks about that. He points out how our modern world kind of fuels that feeling. Think about it. Drive-through funerals, instant credit. It's like we're obsessed with instant gratification in every area of life.
Yeah.
And we apply that same I want it now mentality to happiness too.
It's so true. We want the results without the journey, the happiness without the work. But is that even possible? Can we really fast forward to feeling joy? What does Holden say about that?
Well, he uses this really interesting Zen story to illustrate this point. It's about a student who asks a master how to find everlasting happiness. And the master's answer is simply attention, attention, attention.
Okay, so not a quick fix then. What's the deeper meaning there? What's he getting at?
It's all about being present, being mindful, being in the now. Holden actually calls this the sacred now, the idea that true abundance and joy aren't somewhere off in the future. They're available right here, in this moment, if we just pay attention.
So instead of always chasing some far-off happy ending, we should be focusing on finding those little bits of happiness in our everyday lives.
Exactly. And the really cool thing is, Holden believes this potential for happiness is already inside each of us. It's not something we have to go searching for out in the world. It's more about tapping into what's already within.
So, okay, if that's true, why do we feel so lost when it comes to happiness? If it's right there inside us, why can't we just, feel it?
Well, Holden's got a theory about that too. He believes it's our ego that gets in the way. That part of us that's convinced everything good has to come from outside ourselves. So we end up constantly chasing external validation and approval. He even compares it to a thirsty fish swimming in water, desperately searching for something to drink. But the whole time, it's surrounded by water.
Okay, I'm starting to see the picture here. It's like we're already flying, but we're still desperately reaching for the sky. Our ego is essentially blocking us from this happiness that already exists within us.
Precisely. And what's fascinating is that this isn't just some new age idea. Even fields you'd think would be all about happiness, like psychology, can get caught in this trap.
Yeah, Holden talks about his own psychology training
Hmm.
and how it was so heavily focused on what makes people suffer, not what makes them thrive. Happiness was treated as almost, suspicious, like it wasn't a real subject of study.
It's interesting you say that because I think that reflects a broader tendency in our society as a whole. You see it everywhere. Like doctors study illness, not health. Economists focus on what things cost, not their value. It's almost like we're conditioned to look for problems instead of what's already working well.
Right, it's like we're hardwired to focus on the negative, which obviously has a huge impact on how we view and experience happiness. So how do we break free from this negative cycle?
Yeah.
Does Holden offer any solutions?
Well, that's where his experience with a classmate named Auntie Kumar comes in.
Okay, tell me about this Auntie Kumar. He sounds like quite a character.
Oh, he was. Holden describes him as this embodiment of radiant, ever-present joy. He just always seemed happy, like he had this secret key to unlock happiness.
So what was his secret? Did he share some ancient wisdom with Holden?
In a way, yeah. Auntie Kumar embodied what Holden calls undoism. Basically, it's about unlearning all those fears and beliefs that prevent us from feeling joy. Think about it. From a young age, we're bombarded with messages about what's wrong with the world, all the dangers, the things to worry about. It's no wonder we struggle to feel happy when we're constantly on high alert.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about all the news we consume, all the warnings we hear. It's like we're constantly being told to be afraid, to be cautious.
And that's why Holden talks about undoing all that conditioning. He believes we all have this unconditioned self, our true authentic self that's free from all that negative programming. And he believes that's where true lasting happiness comes from.
It's like hitting the reset button on our minds.
Yeah.
Going back to that state of pure, unadulterated joy we had as children before the world told us what to be afraid of.
Exactly. And Holden even describes his own journey as a therapist, moving away from problem-focused therapy towards what he calls inner light, that inherent potential for happiness that exists within each of us.
I love that. Shifting the focus from fixing what's wrong to nurturing what's right. Did he share any specific techniques to help us tap into that inner light?
He does. One exercise he describes is called blessings. It's all about simply acknowledging the good things in your life, consciously shifting your energy and perspective towards gratitude and appreciation.
So instead of dwelling on the negative, we focus on the positive. Sounds pretty simple, but I bet it's more powerful than we realize.
It's all about retraining our brains, shifting our attention away from what's lacking and towards what we already have.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those times when we do feel happy, but then doubt creeps in? Like, what did I do to deserve this? Or this is too good to be true. Have you ever felt that? I know I have.
Oh, absolutely. It's like we're almost afraid to let ourselves be happy, right? Holden actually has a name for this. He calls it hatochondria.
Mitochondria, like the energy cells in our bodies.
Yep, that's the one. He's using it playfully, but it's a great way to describe that guilt and self-doubt that can sabotage our joy. It's like we question our right to be happy, making us second-guess those good feelings.
This is not just our own self-doubt, but this like external pressure to not be too happy.
That's a great way to put it. It's like we're taught that happiness has to be earned, that it can't just exist.
And that leads us right into Holden's #1 happiness principle,
You
right?
got it. He says,
Yeah.
unless you are happy with yourself, you will not be happy. And he applies this to every area of life: work, relationships, our environment, even our possessions.
Wow, that's a pretty bold statement. So he's saying that unless we have that solid foundation of self-love and acceptance, nothing else can truly make us happy.
That's the idea. It's like you can buy that fancy car thinking it'll bring you lasting joy. But if you're not happy with yourself first, that new car smell is going to fade pretty quickly.
Oh, that's so true. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen into that trap, thinking, if only I had this, then I'd be happy. But it never really works out that way.
Right. Holden calls that the BMW test. Going after something you think will make you happy just to see if it actually delivers. And most of the time, those external things fall short.
Because true happiness is an inside job.
Right. Exactly. That inner shift is where lasting happiness really comes from. And this might sound counterintuitive, but Holden also argues that happiness isn't about luck or circumstance either.
Wait, what do you mean? Some people just seem to be born lucky, always landing on their feet, always having things go their way.
Well, he uses this great example to illustrate this point. There's this 108-year-old man named Christopher who says happiness is 90% about your response to what happens, not the events themselves.
Okay, so it's not about what life throws at you, but how you catch it.
Exactly. And that reinforces this idea that happiness is much more about choice than chance. We have more power over our happiness than we realize.
That's a pretty empowering thought, I have to admit. But even when we intellectually get that, there's this other hurdle that so many of us face. Guilt.
Oh, the guilt thing.
It's like this invisible force that convinces us we haven't earned the right to be happy. That feeling of, I haven't done enough, I haven't suffered enough.
Holden addresses that head on. He contrasts what he calls the work ethic with the idea that happiness isn't some reward at the end of a long, hard road. It's a natural state of being that we can tap into right now.
So instead of grinding ourselves down to deserve happiness, we should focus on recognizing it's already within us. Like it's our birthright.
That's a great way to put it. And to really drive this point home, Holden then explores what he calls the suffering ethic, this misconception that we need to suffer to grow as people.
Oh, that's a familiar one. It's like we're taught to wear our past pain as a badge of honor, Like the more we suffer, the more worthy we become.
Holden sees that as a dangerous trap. He argues that it's not suffering itself that makes us better, it's how we respond to it.
So it's not about intentionally seeking out hardship, but about finding strength and resilience when we face challenges, making meaning out of those experiences and using them to grow.
Exactly. It's about finding that growth in the midst of the struggle. And then he brings up another fascinating concept, which he calls the martyr ethic.
The martyr ethic. Okay, so what's that all about?
Well, it's this fear that experiencing happiness is somehow selfish, especially when others are struggling.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling. Like, how can I enjoy this when there are people going through such tough times in the world?
It's a common struggle. But Holden argues that true happiness isn't selfish at all. In fact, he says it's inherently generous and loving. There's even research showing that happy people are more likely to be outgoing, kind, and compassionate.
So it's not about denying our own happiness, but about letting it overflow and positively impact those around us.
Precisely. True joy radiates outward. And Holden suggests that one of the most powerful tools for breaking free from these limiting beliefs and unlocking that true joy is forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Now, I can see how forgiving others might lead to more peace and happiness. But how does forgiving ourselves play a role in all this?
That's actually where Holden says we need to start. True forgiveness begins within. It's about acknowledging our imperfections, letting go of self-judgment, and embracing the wholeness of who we are, flaws and all.
So it's about accepting ourselves completely, the good, the bad, and everything in between.
That's the heart of it. And it's an essential step on the path to lasting happiness.
This is all so fascinating. It really feels like we've been given this whole script about happiness that's completely backwards.
I think you're right. It's time to rewrite that script, to challenge those old beliefs, and embrace a more joyful and authentic way of being.
I can't wait to unpack more of Holden's ideas and learn more about those practical tools for cultivating lasting happiness.
Me too. There's so much more to explore, and we'll dive right back in with part 2. So we were talking about forgiveness and how it's kind of this key to unlocking happiness. Do you remember that forgiveness meditation Holden guides listeners through?
Yeah, I remember that. I was actually really intrigued by that. I mean, focusing on forgiving ourselves, that's not something you hear every day.
Right. It's like we're so quick to forgive other people, but we hold on to our own mistakes for dear life. And Holden, he really emphasizes that true forgiveness, it has to start within. It's about acknowledging those imperfections, letting go of that self-judgment, embracing the wholeness of who we are, warts and all, you could say.
Yeah, I get that. It's not about denying our mistakes or pretending they didn't happen, but about recognizing that they don't define us,
Yeah.
that we're more than our past mistakes.
Exactly. It's about accepting ourselves completely. And that's what that meditation is all about. He guides you through this process of releasing that guilt and that self-condemnation. He even has you repeat affirmations like, I forgive myself for all the times I've been so hard on myself, and I forgive myself for all my judgments.
It's almost like hitting that reset button on all that negativity we carry around. I know I could definitely use a reset button sometime.
Oh, me too, believe me. But this whole idea of letting go, it's really crucial to what Holden calls growth games.
Growth games. Okay,
Mhm.
what are those?
Well, it's interesting. Remember, he started with that Stress Busters clinic, very problem focused. But then he shifted to this laughter clinic, which is all about cultivating joy. And these growth games, they're kind of an extension of that.
Okay, so it's not just about dealing with stress, but about actively pursuing happiness, making it a priority.
Exactly. It's like taking charge of our own joy. And the first game he introduces is called Happy Days.
Happy days. Okay, I like where this is going.
Yeah, it sounds fun, right? He challenged people to dedicate one day a month entirely to their well-being, a whole day just for self-care.
Wow, a whole day. Sign me up. Did people actually do it, though?
Well, that's where things get interesting. When Holden checked in with the group a month later, guess what? Not a single person had taken a happy day.
Seriously, no one. I mean, I know we're all busy, but come on, a whole day. What was their excuse?
You guessed it. Lack of time. Too busy, too much to do, the classic excuses.
The time excuse. We've all been there.
Right. It's the ultimate scapegoat. But Holden, he wasn't giving up that easily, so he scaled it back a bit, and he suggested a weekly happy hour instead. Just 1 hour dedicated to self-nourishment.
1 hour. That's it. Come on, we can scroll through social media for longer than that.
I know, right? But even that was a struggle for most people. Same story. Too busy, too many obligations, the drill.
So even carving out 1 hour a week for ourselves feels impossible. There's got to be something deeper going on here.
That's exactly what Holden realized. He had this aha moment where he understood that the issue wasn't really about time at all. It was about our own resistance to accepting happiness.
Resistance to happiness. But we all want to be happy, right? Why would we resist that?
It sounds crazy, I know, but we do. We say we want it, but then we put up all these roadblocks. We come up with all these excuses. We sabotage our own joy.
So it's not that we don't have time. It's that we don't believe we deserve it or that we're not worthy of it.
I think that's a big part of it. We have all these deeply ingrained beliefs about happiness, Like it has to be earned. It can't just be something we experience freely.
So how do we overcome that resistance? How do we break free from those limiting beliefs?
Well, that's where Holden's final challenge comes in. Ecstatic 60 seconds.
Ecstatic 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's that all about?
Basically, it's a challenge to find just 1 minute of pure, unadulterated joy each day.
1 minute. Okay, that I can handle. I can definitely spare a minute for some ecstasy.
Right. It's manageable. And the amazing thing is, this time, people actually did it. They found that even in their crazy busy lives, they could squeeze in 60 seconds of pure joy.
It's amazing how much we can accomplish in just 1 minute when we really set our minds to it. And I think it just goes to show that happiness isn't about finding huge chunks of time, but about shifting our mindset.
That's exactly what Holden is getting at. Happiness isn't this big event that requires tons of planning and effort. It's about making that conscious choice to embrace joy, even for just a minute.
Okay, I love that. But then the question becomes, why do we resist those longer stretches of happiness? Why are we so uncomfortable when things are good for too long? Like we almost expect something bad to happen.
That's a great question, and it's something Holden addresses directly. He links this back to self-acceptance. He suggests that our capacity to accept and enjoy happiness is directly tied to how much we accept ourselves.
So if we have low self-worth, we're less likely to allow ourselves to feel truly happy because deep down we don't think we deserve it.
That's the idea. It's like we subconsciously sabotage those moments of joy because they don't align with our self-image.
It's like we have this inner thermostat that's set to a certain level of happiness, and if we try to go above that, it just shuts down.
I like that analogy. And this brings us to what Holden calls the guilt thing, that pervasive feeling of guilt that prevents us from fully experiencing happiness.
Oh, the gold thing. Yeah, I know that one all too well.
Right. It's like that happiness handbrake. Just when things are going well, guilt kicks in and says, nope, you haven't earned this.
It's like we need permission to be happy, and we're always waiting for someone to give it to us.
In Holden, he breaks this down brilliantly. He says it's rooted in this belief that we have to deserve happiness, that it has to be earned through suffering or sacrifice.
Oh yeah, we talked about that earlier, that whole work ethic mentality. Like, joy is the reward at the end of a long, hard road, not something we can experience during the journey.
Exactly. But Holden challenges that whole notion. He straight up says, you do not deserve happiness. You choose happiness.
Wow, I love that. It's not about earning it, but about recognizing it's our birthright, something we can access at any moment.
That's a powerful way to think about it. And he goes on to explore where this belief comes from, why we feel so guilty about being happy in the first place.
I'm really curious about that. Is it just human nature?
Well, Holden traces it back to those early messages we receive about guilt and unworthiness from our families, from society, even from religious teachings sometimes.
It's like we're conditioned to believe that we're inherently flawed and therefore undeserving of good things.
That's a big part of it. And it leads to what he calls the suffering ethic, the idea that suffering is necessary for growth and spiritual development.
Oh yeah, we touched on that before. It's like we're taught to wear our suffering as a badge of honor.
The more we suffer, the more noble or worthy we become.
And Holden argues that this is a dangerous misconception.
He says it's not suffering itself that makes us better, it's how we respond to it.
Right, so it's not about seeking out hardship, but about finding that strength and resilience when we do face challenges.
Finding that growth in the midst of the struggle, making meaning out of those experiences.
And he gives a great example of this, right? About a client who identified as a bulimic even though she'd been in recovery for years.
Yeah, he challenged her to let go of that label, to recognize that her past struggles didn't define her anymore.
That's so powerful. It's about reclaiming our identity from those limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And recognizing our inherent worth regardless of past experiences.
Absolutely. And this leads to another interesting concept that Holden explores, the martyr ethic.
The martyr ethic. Okay,
Whoa.
so is this about sacrificing our own happiness for the sake of others?
That's the essence of it. It's this fear that experiencing happiness is somehow selfish, especially when we see others suffering.
Well, yeah, I get that feeling of guilt when you're having a good time, but other people are going through really tough times.
Right, and Holden argues that true happiness isn't selfish at all. Actually, it's the opposite. He says it's inherently generous and loving, and that happy people are more likely to be kind and compassionate towards others.
So it's not about denying our happiness, but about letting it radiate outwards and impact those around us.
Precisely. And he debunks this idea that there's a limited supply of happiness. Like if I'm happy, it means someone else has to be unhappy.
Right. It's like we've bought into this scarcity mentality when it comes to joy.
Exactly. But Holden suggests that true happiness is contagious. By allowing ourselves to experience joy, we actually inspire others to do the same.
Okay, I love that. But what about those times when happiness does feel selfish, like indulging in something pleasurable while others are struggling just to survive? How do we reconcile that?
Holden acknowledges that tension, and he says that the original intention of martyrdom was about letting go of the ego. But it's become distorted into this idea of suffering for the sake of suffering.
So it's not about intentionally seeking out hardship, but about recognizing that true happiness is rooted in love and compassion, both for ourselves and for others.
And sometimes allowing ourselves to experience joy is the most compassionate thing we can do.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to happiness. It's like we've been focusing on all the wrong things, chasing after those external things.
When true joy is about that internal shift, that inner transformation,
And Holden's work, it's all about challenging those ingrained beliefs.
embracing a more expansive, joyful way of being.
He even encourages us to try that BMW test, right? To go after those material things we think will make us happy, just to see if they actually deliver.
Yeah, to put it to the test, and more often than not, we find that those external pursuits leave us feeling empty.
Because as we've been discussing, true happiness, it's an inside job.
Exactly. And it's not something we achieve overnight. It's an ongoing process of self-discovery and growth.
And Holden provides us with some really valuable tools to navigate that journey, like forgiveness and mindfulness.
And he reminds us that happiness is a choice we can make in any given moment, regardless of our circumstances.
It's about shifting our perspective, rewiring those beliefs, embracing the joy that's already within us, right here, right now.
I love how he uses such vivid language and compelling stories to convey these ideas. Like, he talks about how our ego has a story to tell, full of self-doubt, guilt, and limitation.
And he encourages us to rewrite that story, to choose a narrative of wholeness, worthiness, and joy.
It's about recognizing those negative self-beliefs that keep us stuck. I'm not good enough. I'm wrong. I'm bad. I'm nothing.
And choosing to replace them with affirmations of love and acceptance.
Challenging that inner critic, embracing our true selves.
I love that. It's like we have the power to rewrite our own internal dialogue, to choose a more empowering and joyful narrative.
And he suggests that forgiveness is like a cosmic erasure, wiping away those limiting beliefs and revealing our true radiant selves.
That's such a beautiful image. I love that.
It's about letting go of the past and embracing the present moment with a sense of freedom and possibility.
And it's not just about our own individual happiness. Holden also talks about the importance of believing in happiness for others.
He shares that heartwarming story about the monk, Anadoc, whose smile was so infectious it spread joy wherever he went. It's a reminder that happiness is contagious, that by choosing joy for ourselves, we inspire others to do the same.
And he even mentions studies showing that happy people are healthier, more successful, and have more fulfilling relationships. It's like happiness has this ripple effect, impacting every area of our lives.
Absolutely. And it all comes back to that fundamental choice to embrace joy.
To recognize it as our birthright, not a reward.
And to create a more joyful world, one smile, one act of kindness at a time.
That story about Ananda Doc, it really got me thinking about, how happiness can be contagious, how one person's joy can impact so many others.
It's a beautiful example of how our happiness isn't just about us, It ripples outward, creating a more positive environment for everyone.
It's like that saying, happiness is only real when shared. But I think so often we get caught up in this individualistic pursuit of happiness, like it's some kind of competition.
Holden actually talks about that. He calls it the pursuit of happiness. And he argues that it can actually be a major obstacle to true joy because it keeps us focused on what we lack instead of appreciating what we already have.
We're always comparing ourselves to others, thinking, if only I had that, then I'd finally be happy.
Right, and it's like that analogy Holden uses, the thirsty fish swimming in water, desperately searching for something to drink, when it's surrounded by exactly what it needs.
We're so busy chasing after happiness that we completely miss out on the happiness that's already present, right here, right now.
Exactly. It's like we're running on a treadmill, going through the motions, but never actually arriving anywhere.
So instead of striving to achieve happiness, we should be focusing on cultivating it from within. Like, tending a garden.
I love that analogy. It's about nurturing those seeds of joy that are already present within us.
But even when we have those moments of joy, it can be hard to fully embrace them. Like there's always that voice in the back of my head saying, this is too good to be true, or what did I do to deserve this?
Right. That's what Holden calls the fear of happiness, or hatochondria, as he playfully terms it.
Hatochondria, I love that. It's like this fear is draining our energy, preventing us from fully experiencing joy.
Exactly. And he points out that this fear is often rooted in guilt, We feel guilty for enjoying ourselves, especially when we know others are struggling.
So it's not just about overcoming our own self-doubt, but about challenging those societal expectations that tell us we shouldn't be too happy.
Absolutely. It's like we're afraid to fully embrace joy because we don't want to appear insensitive or ungrateful.
So how do we break free from that fear? How do we give ourselves permission to be happy?
Well, Holden suggests that true happiness is actually the opposite of selfish. He says it's a radiant energy that naturally overflows and touches others.
So by allowing ourselves to experience joy, We're not taking away from anyone else. We're actually inspiring others to do the same.
Exactly. Happiness breeds more happiness, and he reminds us that there's an unlimited supply of joy, so there's no need to hoard it.
And Holden offers some really practical tools for cultivating this kind of happiness.
Right, it does. He talks about forgiveness, both for ourselves and others, as essential.
He describes forgiveness as like a cosmic eraser, wiping away those limiting beliefs that keep us from experiencing true joy.
I love that analogy. It's about releasing those old hurts and resentments, making space for something new to emerge.
And he also emphasizes mindfulness, being present in the moment, and appreciating those simple joys in life.
Absolutely. He reminds us that we often get so caught up in the pursuit of happiness that we miss out on the happiness that's already right here, right now.
We're so focused on what we don't have that we forget to appreciate what we do have.
So it's about slowing down, savoring each moment, cultivating gratitude for all the good in our lives.
It's not about achieving some perfect state of happiness where we're always joyful and never experience any negative emotions. It's about acknowledging the full spectrum of human experience, the ups and downs, the joys and sorrows, and finding a sense of peace amidst it all.
Beautifully said. I think that's the essence of Holden's message.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into happiness now, I think the question we're left with is this. What choice will we make today to cultivate more joy in our own lives?
And how can we use that joy to create a ripple effect, inspiring others to do the same?
It's not about waiting for the perfect conditions or achieving some arbitrary goal. Happiness is available to us right now if we choose to embrace it.
And I hope this deep dive has given you some tools and insights to help you do just that.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep embracing the joy of discovery.